You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Gene Johnson.
The AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's Whodunnit After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's Whodunnit After Show.
Oh man, I'm stumped again.
Oh, we haven't heard
It sounds like the Love Boat, yeah. The Love Boat's not a murder mystery.
No.
Steven, what you got? What you got?
It's Kojak.
All right. Hey guys, Bing is for doing, and we're here doing another AfterBuzz after show for ABC's Whodunnit. Woohoo! It is episode 6, All the World Stage. We had a little double murder action last week.
We did.
It was kind of an interesting twist.
Yeah, I felt like this week was so much more gruesome. Like all the other weeks were a little bit like an explosion or, you know, something shatters. But this one was kind of scary. Like I feel like tonight I might have a few nightmares.
This was very serial killer.
Yeah,
like drag them into a hidden room, drain all of their blood, have one of them wheeling the other. Very kind of macabre and very very much like a serial killer type novel.
Yeah.
I say it's a lot of quick work too.
Yeah.
In one night, you take 2 bodies, drain them, both the blood, get them stuffed of something, makeup on, set them up at the piano. That's pretty quick. We got a quick killer on the hands.
I mean, and an interesting combination of really old elements like chloroform, which has been around since it's in all the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle type things. Like that's just what you use to knock someone out. They couldn't find anything newer if the guy's going to be draining all their blood.
Yeah, but it's universal. People know that. When they hear that, that's where they go.
Yeah, well, I mean, how about a little throw us a little something.
A little curveball.
Yeah.
I mean, double murder, draining blood. I think is a little bit of a curveball.
Compared to the other things, I think it was definitely different, you know, and that's what I liked, but I was also really fearful of what's to come because
I was hopeful there'd be like snails or something sucking the blood out of them because it was missing the animal element that I think is really brought it home.
Well, but it's interesting too because with a lot of the other murders, we've had to figure out like why they were going to blow. Like there was like 1 step, 2 step, 3 step almost of the actual death. And with this, it was like okay, like there were still steps, but it wasn't as like you were saying as exciting steps. You know what I mean?
And I feel like we figured it out last week exactly how it what it was because like Brian, you had said both of y'all I think said it looks like their blood got drained.
Right, there was drips of blood.
This was, I guess, if you think of genres, this is almost more of an action adventure this week rather than a mystery. I mean, it's supposed to be a mystery, but like, I mean, I think that a lot of their effort, whether in scripting and in doing it, was more into the execution of making the bodies look like they're wax and that sort of thing. Because I mean, I don't know. I feel like some of the contestants could have and probably did guess a lot of the elements.
Right. I think too it was interesting how we want to think that because last week there was such a distraction, the snake and the satchel and the 2x4 with the poison, the poison on the end of the nails. So we were like looking for that, other element of surprise. And like even when Ronnie was saying, that there was 2 cuts and, had the cut on the wrong side, but it really had nothing to do with it. I think that's where we were going to try and figure out the intricacy of the actual killing, and none of that really mattered, which arm was cut or cut in the back. Like none of that really had the blood got drained from a wound. Yeah,
I mean the only red herring I think this week so far was the shoes, which I to me that was really and not to use a pun, but kind of lead-footed. I mean, it was very in your face. I mean, I saw from the very beginning, like I was just like, well, you know, the shoes are clearly not going to be the killer's shoes, or at least there's going to be something, they're going to be stuffed, because that's another old, I mean, it's another old thing you find in mysteries is that, oh yeah, well there's shoe prints, but oh, it's not the killer's shoes. I mean, so that was the only red herring, and I thought that was underwhelming so far for the show.
Yeah, I was really surprised that it was basically what you see is what you get. Right. You know, but I think that could also have been the twist this week, because in the past, all the other episodes, it wasn't as obvious as it was, you know, so, and, you know, since these contestants, this is their 6th week, you know, they're probably overthinking everything.
I was just going to say that. You know, and so are we, in a sense.
Exactly.
We're thinking for step 1, 2, 3, which is actually a very good choice by them to kind of bring you back into like this zone of like, okay, don't look too into it. Like maybe the answer is right in front of your face. You don't have to look under the layers and layers and layers. You know, be sure to just keep looking at what's right in front of you. Because I don't think any of us said that Geno was going to be the one that died this week. I think that was a little bit of a curveball as well.
Well, I mean, when we predict who's going to die, it's really difficult to predict who's going to die the next week.
Right, but in the same sense, we had reasons for Lindsay dying because she was playing both sides, and now even in this episode, she's flying a little bit under the radar. So her purpose for keeping it, you know, dramatic, I guess, for lack of it, was she was playing both sides, and now she's kind of like, you know, simmered down a little bit and is like, okay, let me just take a step back so I can play it safe, so to speak.
For this week, at least, I mean, I think we saw one stable team and one unstable team. If there was a theme maybe this week, it was that one of the teams fell apart, and it reflected basically in all of their performances. And ultimately in who was killed, and then the other team was at least relatively stable this week. I don't think that's going to persist.
No.
But it's because they were scrambling. I mean, they couldn't even communicate with each other, and that kind of like threw everything off. I think it would, I mean, and it also depends on who gets the clue. I mean, that's always kind of going to be the scrambling situation.
Right, but in this case, they were scrambling beforehand. Usually the team drama happens after the clue. You're exactly right. But I feel like this one beforehand, even Ronnie was specifically withholding information from Geno because Ronnie and Cam had talked about icing Geno out.
Right. Think about it. If Ronnie had gotten the clue, if Geno had gotten the clue, that team probably still kind of falls apart. It doesn't necessarily that one of them doesn't. It's not necessarily that one of them is killed, but Geno finds out that. I mean, if Geno is not the one who's killed, he finds out that Ronnie sold him down the river, and that Melina is also in on selling him out. And then that's not a stable team going into the next week. So either way, that team was killed this week.
Right. As soon as Ronnie basically, decided to work with Cam, that kind of ended that whole alliance. Yeah. But I feel like maybe we're jumping around a little bit.
Yeah,
maybe we should kind of start
let's reel it back in a little bit. Okay, sure. So let's go. And again, so this time, instead of 3 places to go, we only have 2. We have the last known whereabouts, and there's actually 2 of those, which is Dana's room and Sasha's room, which are very close to each other. So from one room, you can see the tracks going from one to the other.
And so for you guys that didn't maybe watch the episode, we come into Dana and Sasha at the piano completely stiff, and we hear music playing, and that's kind of when everybody runs out and realizes it's Dana and Sasha that have been killed.
Right. So then, so the last known whereabouts is Sasha's room and Dana's room. And Geno and Lindsay go for Sasha's room. Melina and Chris go to Dana's room. And first of all, we skipped something else very important. Giles is like the happiest Giles we've ever seen.
Yes.
Once we see the crime scene and we see them at the piano, he's dancing with one of the maids. Like, what's going on with Giles?
I like it. It was a creepy episode.
It was really creepy. I like it though.
Yeah, creepy.
He's enjoying himself. He's at his house. He's butlering it up. I mean,
So back to the rooms. Again, and they were saying how it was, the rooms were very close, so they had to go at separate times, which is different as well. Usually all 3 groups split off at the same time. So people are waiting around, thinking about what they might go and find. So Geno and Lindsay go first, and they see the footprints. They're very distinct Converse sneakers footprints. I think everyone can tell that. They see the dolly, the deep tracks. You know, I think that it is really smart of them figuring out, you know, the tracks look deeper going in than out. So clearly there was a person, you know, in the dolly on the way out. And you know what I mean? Like, it was they're becoming better detectives, so to speak, in a way. And then Milena and Chris, they had to wait in the library so that they weren't really talking to anyone else. And then they get to go into Dana's room where they see more of the droplets of blood. I thought it was really neat how Chris was very, and maybe this was editing as well, but she kind of used that like door opening thing really easily. Like the way that the killer, so to speak, broke into the door. She kind of got on the first try the way that it looked. Yeah. I mean, maybe that was editing, but it looked like she's broken into a few places in her time.
She's sketchy.
She's a little sketchy.
Because I mean, even the way that she was trying to manipulate Melina was a little sketchy. And I think Melina was a little savvier than Chris gave her credit for, though. Because I mean, I guess to give it a little background, when Chris and Melina were together, Chris kept saying like, "Oh, Geno-sized footprints. Oh boy, a large man like Geno must have been doing this." And Melina did not seem to. I mean, Melina seemed to be kind of like, okay. Yeah, I don't think that actually worked. I don't know if you guys disagreed as to whether Melina was really doubting or whether she was just like, okay, Chris.
She's definitely becoming my new favorite character because Melina, yeah. Because
for the winner or for the killer?
Just as someone I'd like to hang out with.
Yeah, like I feel like she's like they give her really good like screen time, and she's very dramatic, but it's just like it's comedy. It's like the comedic relief that I need, especially while watching this episode. Yes. But I feel like she's definitely playing the game. Like I feel like at first she was kind of like, oh, I'm a little bit helpless, but now I'm thinking that's her like
shtick.
Yeah, she's not, I don't think she's as helpless as she made it out to seem when she was with Dawn.
And she's likable, and I mean, I think that the people in the house find her likable too. Right. And someone like Chris, I don't think anyone likes her right now. I mean, she's not overtly like in your face like sometimes Geno is. Like sometimes like Cam definitely is a lot of the time, and sometimes even like Grani is. But I mean, it's very clear that Chris is just very, very serious and very, very kind of just like will kind of throw people under the bus, and I think everyone kind of knows that, and so no one's like, oh, what a warm and cuddly character.
Well, she's dominant. She's like a dominant girl. She's won 2 clues now, and she knows not to give out more information than she has to. Like, she is a very smart, I mean, strategic player.
Ultimately, you know, the other people are going to want to kick people out. Right. It's getting to that point where you're going to want to, instead of saying, okay, how do I stay in, it's going to be, who's the strongest person here? Let's kick them out.
Right. And I feel like you made an interesting point with Melina because there hasn't really been any drama with her. And somebody mentioned tonight in the episode when they were all talking that she's never got a scared card.
Yeah, she's never got a scared card.
She's never got a scared card. Although we learned last week that if the killer does get a scared card, they just aren't, they can possibly score the worst on this test, but they don't get kicked off. You know what I mean? But so that doesn't necessarily mean that she's the killer because she hasn't got a scared card. But I think it's, she hasn't gotten any scared card. No one's trying to make her go back and forth. They're confiding in her. Even Ronnie slips her the piece of paper.
Like desperately. The piece of paper, and she was like, no.
Yeah, I think he was starting to feel guilty though because him and Cam were trying to make an alliance, but Cam almost said it. Like, and Cam definitely comes across a little cocky, but Cam has stayed true to his team. You got to give him credit for that.
He has.
Well, I mean, although he hasn't been tested, I mean, it's been in his self-interest to stay true to his team. Like, he hasn't been. Like, if his team wasn't getting the clues.
Lindsay got the clue the first time, and then Chris and Chris.
I mean, it's really easy when your team is winning to be like, yeah, rah, rah, rah. I mean, there's no opportunity for you to be a fair weather fan. Like, it's right now, I mean, maybe he's a stand-up guy. Maybe he's not. We don't, I mean, there's no reason for him to suddenly say, well, how about that weak team over there? Let me sow seeds of dissent among my really strong teammates.
But even when Geno figured it out and Geno gave him some information, that wasn't his own team at that point in time. So he stayed true to where he got the information from.
But that's because it benefited him.
Right.
And so, and even thinking back farther, Cam had it out for Geno. Like, if we're looking back at this, it then split to Cam and Geno because Geno didn't want to be on Cam's team.
Right.
And that's when it split. And that's why Cam has been like, let's vote Geno off, let's vote Geno off. That's been his thing. He wasn't worried about Lindsay or Chris or any of the people winning. He was still kind of butthurt because he's a little bit,
right.
he has an ego that Geno didn't want to be on my team, so therefore he has to go.
Yeah. Well, and he's always said that he's the killer. Every single time he said, Geno, I still know you're the killer. So I'll be interested to see where Cam goes with who he thinks now is the killer. Is he going to go to Ronnie because he's the other dude? Or is he going to, you know what I mean?
Well, no, because Ronnie just kind of lost all his credibility. And why would you go with Ronnie? Because obviously the two girls on your team are the best. Like, you wouldn't go with Ronnie and Melina. What have they figured out?
Well, I mean, Ronnie figured out a couple of things earlier.
Yeah, Ronnie.
Ronnie's
figured out a lot.
The clue.
He did.
He's figured out stuff.
What was the
science? Or no, the.
But in the same sense, maybe that's his strategy. Maybe he figured out a couple things. I want to see what happens with Chris next week too, because I don't think anyone's gotten saved twice in a row or spared by the killer twice in a row. So there's all kinds of different things happening here that are, a little bit out of the norm for the way all the other episodes have been going, which is interesting.
Wait, Chris didn't get a scared card.
She got spared this week, and last week she got number one.
Two spareds in a row.
So there's never been anyone else that's got number one 2 weeks in a row.
Didn't Sasha get?
No, Sasha didn't get any.
Well, yeah.
So
I think
anyway,
yes.
Okay, so moving on to the Morgue, which was the other place. Ronnie was there. Ronnie and Cam were there, and Ronnie was really, almost desperately seeking to realign with Cam. He was trying to tell him, let's not tell him this, let's not tell him that, and then that's, Cam got very clear about, no, we're just going to ice Geno out. Right. And Ronnie was not really okay with that. Like, he said he was okay with that, but he wasn't. And he wanted to give him just misinformation, not zero.
Right. Ronnie just seems kind of desperate right now to cling to someone to at least have some type of alliance going forward. I think that's why he was so desperate to get that paper to Melina. He knew by that point that he was, that no one wanted Geno around, so it's a worthless alliance. Or a relatively worthless alliance. I think he already distrusted Geno, and so, but he also, he'd made that overture to Cam's, to Cam and his team, and it was pretty clear that Cam and his team weren't interested. They basically, Ronnie made a suggestion and Cam said, well, no, we'll do it my way. That's basically how it went.
Right.
And so, I think from the tenor of that conversation, Ronnie said, okay, well, they're not really going to pull me onto their team. They'd rather just get me off. I really, really, really need Melina to, at least feel some loyalty to me. And that's why he was so desperate about getting her a piece of paper. He didn't want to be, he didn't want to be dangling alone.
But, I kind of understand where he's coming from, because if you're him and you're just going to all of a sudden ice out Geno, Geno is not going to put up with that. He's not, he's going to be in your face. Like, every week he goes in Cam's face trying to, Cam and Geno are the same. They both have to say what they want to say and get in people's face and think that's the way to get people's, or to get their way. But, if you're going to completely ice out Geno, he's going to just be a nag all day long. And I think that's what Ronnie was saying. Let's not make this a horrible day all day, because that's what it would turn out to. And I completely understand that.
Yeah, no,
the day would be miserable.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree that if Ronnie would have iced him out from the beginning, that would have been way more drama. Right. But Cam wanted the drama, so to speak.
I think he did.
That's what he wanted.
He wanted the drama. He wanted to kind of be like, Geno, screw you.
Well, what he really wanted is he wanted to be responsible for the other team being destroyed. That gives him credibility with his own team, because then he says, "You see that other team? I destroyed it." If they really do the ice out thing, right? And the two people on that team, they don't know what's. If that strategy had actually worked, Melina and Ronnie would still be basically, at the mercy of Cam and his team.
Right.
And so he really wanted to create an undercast for the remaining two people, so that he could basically insure himself onto maybe this at least the week before the final, and the fact that Ronnie didn't go with it is not at all surprising, and I think exactly the right call.
But it's really, but you have to also think in the mind of the contestant, they can have so much strategy going into every single day, every challenger, whatever you want to call it, but they don't know exactly who's going to find out the clue. So it's pretty much whoever has the strategy that best can be molded to whether their team finds a clue or the other team finds a clue. You know what I mean? It's like different layers of strategy, because you could have the strategy like, I need to align with this one, well, I need to ice this one out. Like, what if Geno would have been the one that solved, the whole thing? Then nobody really would have wanted to ice him out. Everyone would have wanted to get information from him.
Well, that's not necessarily true. If he's not, I mean, it depends on how Geno responds. So if Geno wins, gets the clue, so to speak, then what he has is he has information, and then there's 5 below him, and if he chooses to share with no one, then still Cam's strategy is still dominant, because the 3 people on his team.
But he wouldn't do that. Why would he do that?
So what he would do would be to share it with the people on his team. And from Cam's perspective, that doesn't hurt him.
Yeah,
right, but
Geno wouldn't
that's
do
not
that.
what I'm talking about. The ice out
Cam.
exactly.
Like Geno would give the most information to Lindsay and Chris.
No, but not if there was. This is why Cam liked that strategy, because if there's a full ice out, then Geno won't want to share with anyone.
Right.
But I'm saying,
no, Geno would share with his own.
Well, he would find out who would be most advantageous to.
And that's why he said you either have to do it my way or no way. Right. But Ronnie wasn't going to do that.
But I know,
because Ronnie thought maybe Geno might find out.
Right. If Geno finds the clue, he is absolutely not sharing with his own 2 teammates alone, and he is not sharing with the other 3 teammates. He's breaking up that team.
Right, and that's why Ronnie chose not to do it.
Right. I don't think anyone's in disagreement that Ronnie's way to go is the best way.
What are we fighting about?
We're not fighting. We're not fighting.
Let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay, so moving on. And then, I really do like how Ronnie passes it to Melina. And Melina was very hesitant to take the information at first. You know what I mean? And she was just sitting there, and then she was sitting there. She's like, oh, my God, thank you. And Ronnie really took time, and clearly we didn't see it, but he took time to really specifically draw out what he saw.
Which actually was nothing.
Which had no real weight to helping her.
Yeah.
I mean, it had to have done something, because at the end we see that, who gets killed.
Right.
So it must have played a little tiny part.
But there you see Melina being very strategic, because she's like, oh, thank you, Ronnie. And then at the end, she's just like, yeah.
But she didn't tell anyone that she got that.
No, but then at the end too, like to the camera privately, she says, so you saw someone out, yeah, you get a scared card, yeah, it's karma.
And that's exactly why I think that's when it hit me. She's definitely playing this game.
Yes.
Because
she's smart. Yeah. She's really smart.
Well, she's playing the game well.
Which is smart.
Yes. Yeah, no, I agree. No, I'm not saying she's not. I'm just saying we haven't given her an IQ test. No, she's good at math.
It's really irrelevant if she's good at math for this show, I think.
No, I agree. She's good on the show.
And then, so I like, too, how they take them down to that we're seeing different places of the house that we've never seen, which is kind of interesting. I feel like, and there's the word again, now I say it all the time, and I love whoever did say that, how he went and made more comments about how we shouted out that he was making fun of our interesting. So, but we love your guys' comments. Keep commenting. Go to YouTube, iTunes, download us, go on the AFTERBUZZ site. Something else while you guys are there, there's this great movie called Serial Buddies. Our CEOs and producers, creators, Maria Menounos and Kevin Undergirl made it. It's like Dumb and Dumber, Dexter. It's really, really funny. You should totally download it. Check it out. Keep the comments coming. We're going to have more guests. We know that Anthony Zuiker called in last week, and he was going to come tonight, and then, last minute we had to do some changing with scheduling, but he will be here to join the show at some time, so keep your questions coming. We will be able to get them answered. It's really interesting getting, the inside scoop of what really went into putting this show together.
And it's fun hearing you guys' predictions and little things that you see that we don't see.
Right.
Or how you put it together, like so-and-so was doing this. And
yeah, we saw some comments, and again, we don't know exactly how it all happens, but some people were commenting on YouTube about how, the murders are happening left-handed and this and that, which it's really, really amazing what you guys are seeing, because we watch the show, then we go live right away. So it's, that we don't have that much time to go back and break it down and everything, so we love your comments. Keep them coming. We're all trying to figure out this together, and that's the awesome thing. Really, right now, no one, is really sure this is the murderer. This is the killer. This is the winner, which I think that is a brilliant show. Like, we're 6 episodes in, and no one's like, nope. Like, my opinion's changed at least twice.
Well, you know, I thought we had a really good comment about how it's so much like The Mole, but in The Mole, everybody is trying to find out who the killer is during, like, as they're playing, and they're kind of trying to figure that out during the gameplay. I don't feel like people are trying to figure out who the killer is so much while they're playing because they're trying to figure out the clues. You know, like, they're not watching each other's every move. So I thought that was, you know, something to take away that I don't know how they would even do that here, but I know that they said during The Mole that's what, you know, everybody was kind of looking out for.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I feel like in a way too that there are, you know, as you know, Anthony said, there are subtle clues leading up to it, but, you know, it's not that because when they reenacted the killing of Ulysses that he was on a black horse, like, you can't go back and find the black horse. Like, it's not that blatant where, you know, you could actually, for those specific things, there's other subtleties that were in there. And for me, one of them was that kind of got ruled out tonight was after Dunne got killed by the mountain lion, in Geno's room, his wallpaper had mountain lions on it. So for me, I think, Brian, you pointed that out. Like, you saw it first, and then we were talking about it. And for me, I was like, oh, maybe that's where the mountain lion lives, comes from there. You know what I mean? Like, I was trying to piece stuff together by that, but Geno's clearly gone. So, you know, that really wasn't.
Well, I mean,
it didn't work out that way for that one.
So, but then, you know, like how they said today, the shoes were stuffed. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a girl, because it could just be guys' shoes that were size 12.
Yeah,
that
13
they were size
is
13.
a relatively large shoe.
Right, and I think that's the reason why they had Geno died, and it was, you know, clearly his shoe, because everyone was saying that his foot was lining up, you know, the same exact size to the shoe. So I think right away they didn't want that to be like, well, it's his size shoe. Like, we kind of kiboshed that one right away, that it wasn't the right shoe. It wasn't Geno's shoe.
With the stuffing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the stuffing, it could be one of the other guys that afterwards put stuffing in. So it was like, let's make them think that it's one of the girls. It could go either way with that. That was a smart thing to do.
Plus, I don't think either Cam or Ronnie has a size 13 shoe. I mean, Geno's like a foot taller than them. Maybe that's
right. So any single one of them could have stuffed that shoe.
Yeah. I mean, now they don't even have to say, "Wow, did they stuff it? Did they not stuff it?" All of them have smaller feet. So.
Right. So, and again, I love, like I said, I love seeing other parts of the house. I love seeing the theater, and it was, you know, it definitely added. Yeah, it was a little bit super creepy tonight.
Those doppelgangers were ridiculous. Like, they were, I don't know.
They remind me of Alcatraz, where they have and anyone else been on Alcatraz, where they have the prisoners. They make you know, little doppelgangers of themselves, the ones that actually escaped, and they're really super creepy.
I've seen them, yeah, but yeah, they were really, really creepy, and I think creepy was the theme. I mean, creepy might be our new word for the night.
I mean, that's Giles was acting super creepy.
Yeah,
dancing
he was
and
acting like he was drunk.
You know, he's been there a while.
They did look like they were having some mimosas.
Yeah, they were having some those shrimp cocktails looked wonderful, but anyway, neither here nor there.
Yeah, I like that Dana had I believe it looked like a cosmopolitan of some sort on the piano as well, like the super girly like drink.
Yeah.
You know, a little shout out to Sex and the City or something. And so then we go down to the basement or the movie theater, and we have, you know, the little clip of the film, which was really cool to see the clip, the old school kind of film in a theater like that. That's what you would expect to see down there. And
I liked reading the clue.
I did too. I really liked reading
it. I'm definitely like a visual learner. Yeah, and I was like, okay, it just made more sense to me.
Yeah, it totally did. And I think we all got very quickly the snowman. The snowman at first didn't do it for me, but the 88 keys, like as soon as they were saying lift up, I was like, okay, piano. And you said piano too with the 88 keys. I think we all kind of got
snowman.
Piano.
You immediately think of 8, and then when they say the double snowman and keys, I mean, if you know how many keys are on a piano, then you're immediately right there.
Right.
I was really surprised at the time that it took some of them to find that. I mean, whenever anyone says snowman, I immediately think the number 8. So double snowman immediately goes 88.
Why?
Right. It looks like an 8.
Yeah, there's something else.
But there's 3. Usually a snowman has 3 tiers. No?
Yeah, Snowman definitely has 3 tiers, but it looks like.
I'm trying to think of where, I don't know what it's from.
Anyway, but so we get that. And again, there's got to be little different rules that apply because they can only take one. And it was, I think if you see Ronnie walk someone back, or one of them walked
Ronnie found Geno.
Yeah, and walked him back to the piano to show. No, Camden.
Well, no, Ronnie found Geno and was like, where did you get that? And then he said piano, so then he went and got it.
Right.
Because he was actually, Geno was reading the clue and Ronnie came up, and obviously, I don't know if he couldn't share it or what, but basically Ronnie went back and got the clue instead of just reading the clue with Geno and then going.
There's definitely a no following rule. I mean, I think it's very clear that in the last 2 weeks, in the last 2 weeks, there's a very clear no following rule, and so you can still share information because you saw everyone shared. Ultimately, everyone got to the piano because everyone shared. They actually showed, I think, they showed every single person exchange of information. Like they showed how all 6 people got the information of the piano. And
it's actually really funny because Geno was the first person and he shared it with Ronnie, and had he not shared it, who knows how long that would have taken them to find it. And then Geno could have probably found the clue himself.
Right.
So he was like his own demise, being nice and sharing with his team.
Yeah, but I think the big takeaway is that they have adjusted the rules a little bit, because in the beginning he would have been like, "Yo, just come with me,"
right?
Because all the riddles and all the stuff that was found on the piano is just 8 of the same thing. I mean, 6 of the same thing.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, I think we were probably not the only people who were commenting, after the first couple of episodes, or after 3 or 4 episodes, that the following thing was getting really annoying and it was not good TV.
Well, I'm pretty sure they saw it because as they were filming it, they were probably like, seriously, you're going to guard the TVs? Like going back a couple episodes.
But that wasn't really the following thing. I mean, Sasha would like,
but I mean, that's the whole point of you don't have to find the clues yourself.
You don't have to get the, yes, I agree.
That's basically all I meant with that.
Yeah. So then they go back down to the theater and start cutting open their doppelgangers, which again was creepy. When they threw them on the ground, their hands were all creepy. And then Chris, right away was like, the cut was in the back, let's go to the back. Which she was
seeing everybody else looking in random places and they weren't finding it. So I mean that's what I would do.
But she wasn't in the morgue.
But Cam shared that information with her.
Oh, yeah. Right. Ronnie said. Which, and I thought, I mean, too, and maybe they just showed that exact clip, but the first little cut, she got the clue. I thought that was pretty,
I think
pretty right on.
I think that's editing.
It has to be a little bit of editing.
I mean, they like to do that with various people.
Yeah.
But right now, I think they're trying to push her as the killer. I don't think she's the killer.
I think it's Melina.
Well, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll totally get there.
Hey.
Sorry. I'm excited.
So Chris gets it first, and there's another riddle, if the walls could talk, which again sends him back to the morgue.
Why did that... I don't think I understood the clue. Like, she went straight for it and moved that thing.
Right, well, the cold-blooded sends you to the morgue. Okay. And then if the walls could talk, I mean, it's going to the wall, and then they have the scalpel, basically, to cut into it.
And where it was behind was the tray that held all the tools and stuff. So I think she put 2 and 2.
I don't know. I felt like she did. Maybe it was the editing, but I felt like she went straight for it and knew exactly where it was. And I was like, what?
I think they're trying to trick us. I think they're trying to trick us.
I think they're trying to drive her as the killer right now.
Okay. Okay. Because I was like, man, she is one smart cookie.
And nobody seemed close.
No.
Nobody seemed close again. Nobody was down there so no one, until she told people, so it was pretty much a choice of hers whether or not she was going to tell people there was a double morgue.
Right.
She did tell people,
and
but it was
she again is withholding stuff from her.
The stuffing in the shoes.
And then it came out, and she was like, "What are you talking about?"
And so now I hope, and I think that her teammates are probably sharp enough to catch on.
Oh, see, I don't think so. I don't think that. I disagree. I think that she was just like, I didn't see that, which is kind of something where you could because if you don't if you see a pair of shoes and you're like, okay, you might not be like, did someone stuff them? You might not
inspect the shoes.
Well, maybe not. Maybe she just saw the shoes. But the thing that I'm thinking is, they were saying in previous episodes, if they missed a clue, they would put another clue in later.
Right.
So maybe they thought, oh, well, we could have missed a clue. You know, maybe the shoes just weren't noticed, or maybe they just said.
I think we'll see how sharp Cam is. And
I definitely think.
I think we already
case.
know that Lindsay is sharp. We don't know. I don't think we know how sharp Cam is in an investigative sense. He's definitely cunning and like he's sharp with respect to. Yeah, he's good with strategy. We'll see. You know, whether he puts together that Chris was withholding information from him, because to me that wasn't that was actually a relatively clear holdback on her part. I mean, if you find, because they specifically said it's a big deal. I mean, whether or not that's the actual killer's shoes is a big deal. And you know, if you're looking at the shoes, you're not looking in them to see whether they're actually their shoes.
Right, but in the same sense, we don't know how much time she had to look. There was so many other things there. The knife was there. There was a lot of stuff.
She gave them a ton of
She gave them so much information. It could have been like, it wasn't like something. There was nothing wrong with the information she gave. She just left out. She was like, they were big shoes, and because everyone else was saying it was Geno-sized shoes, she played into that.
Plus, Cam was the one that got the highest score, so it would have looked bad if she would have got the highest score, but she didn't. So
something was wrong.
Like,
right.
But let's be
That's
clear.
True. I agree with you.
She's someone who has gotten the riddle 2 straight weeks. I mean, people in that house, to underestimate her is at their peril, and I really don't think that the people in the house are like, oh, you know, she's just kind of ditzy and forgot to do that. I mean, this is someone who has been at the top of the group in terms of spur of the moment riddle solving.
Right, but she didn't get it. She didn't get it this week.
But she did. She got the riddle. I'm talking about spur of the moment riddle.
But she
right, but she didn't get saved, so that means she didn't get the top scoring thing. So people could be like, "Oh, that's what she missed."
Right. So it does.
There's
like
room
I
for
feel
that.
like she could play it off, like, "Oh, well, Cam, your score was higher. I missed that part."
Well, I'm sure she will. I mean, what we'll see next week is whether someone on her team calls her on it, or at least calls her the day after and saying, "Hey, you know."
We will see.
And I'm pretty confident that one of them will.
So you know. I think that it was with an intentional withheld. I don't know if she'll get caught in it, but we'll see. It's interesting, and it's going to be interesting because I don't think she's actually going to come out and say, yes, I withheld the information like how previous contestants have. So we'll see who believes her and who doesn't. So that might right there break the other alliance. Like that might be something. You know what I mean? Like, we've got to reform teams now. There's not, I mean, even though there was only...
Or they could just pick them off. Like, that's what I really feel like it'll be. Like, I mean, you've seen, if anybody's ever watched Survivor, they're like, okay, you are going to be my top 5, you're going to be my top 3, so we're going to pick you 2 off. And I feel like if, you know, Cam gets his way, or if his team gets it, they're going to just pick off Ronnie and Melina. That's what I would do.
Maybe.
I think there's going to be a break. I think Lindsay might teeter back.
The riddle is a nice... I mean, the riddle is a nice thing that can help to reshuffle things. I mean, the best laid plans, you know, can.
No, that's what I said. Is if it's
athlete.
Just like if my team wins the clue, that's how I'm going to go. But then you also, I mean, one of them might be the killer.
Well, they have to be.
Well, no, I'm saying Melina or Ronnie might be the killer.
There's 2 possible wrenches. Yes, at least 2 possible wrenches with the riddle and the killer. And
well, I want to see how they play it out, though, because, you know, like I said, normally there's 3 places they have to go to. We all know this. So now there's only 2 people, so to speak, on their team. So right away in the beginning, there's going to be some sort of scramble of how they're, or else they're both going to get the scare cards right away. Like someone's got to come over. Like something dramatic, I think, is definitely going to happen with that.
Well, I mean, they teased something. They teased something involving Lindsay that to me made it look like, you know, maybe she solved the riddle, or, you know, actually it just looked to me like she solved the riddle, and based on what they teased.
That would make sense if she does. I don't know if that's, you know, real. I don't know what to say, but that would make sense because it would go back to how she was playing both teams, and that would you know, throw a wrench in it.
Yeah, I mean, either that or she divides a team or something. But I mean, they teased someone saying you're the most powerful woman in the blah 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 with this week, and so I think that's. I don't understand why someone else would say that to her unless there was some actual context where she had something that others didn't. Anyway.
Right.
Snowman, by the way, I figured out it was from golf and poker. When you talk about 8, you're talking about snowman. So
okay.
That's probably why no one else around here.
I want to know, too, if we're going to see more of the house. I want to know if there's going to, you know, every week there's a little bit more reveal of the house.
Well, we see the hula.
But we've seen the parlor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Well,
have we
no,
seen
but
the
I'm
Iron Maiden
excited.
before?
No,
Yeah. I've heard that before.
They've said it. They
Yeah,
said
they've said
there's
it
an
before.
Iron Maiden, but we've never seen it.
Right.
So.
We might see more. I mean, I think they're probably running. I don't actually. Maybe they're not running out of places in that house.
No, that house is huge. There's
yeah.
probably rooms we haven't seen yet.
But cool. Or like what could be gymnasium?
Like
maybe?
the basement. Like something else in the basement.
We've seen a lot, and the morgue, and the
Well, there's
studio
3
and the
more
base.
episodes. So,
Yeah.
and this last killing
Bowling
will
alley.
be.
Well, yeah, let's
Ooh,
get to
bowling
that.
alley.
That would be interesting. No, let's get to that. So now we figured it out. We get to the scared and spared cards, and so yeah, Lindsay's been flying over the radar. Cam, he gets the save from the killer, which I didn't expect that one. I didn't expect that one to happen that way.
Unless Chris is really smart and didn't want to make everybody.
That's a big risk.
No, because is it really that big of a risk?
Yes.
Because she knew that the other team isn't going to have anything.
I don't
So
know.
you're thinking she told Cam about the tissue and we just didn't see it?
No.
Oh.
What I'm saying is
She's saying she tanked the test.
she tanked it just enough that she made Cam look like that, so that if something did come back, she would.
But
That's
she
a really
did,
hard
in her
strategy to
confessional,
play.
she did say.
But
I
that
think
was
all of
all.
it.
She looked pissed off in her confession, so I
Yeah,
don't
but
know
I think
that.
she said most of what she saw.
I don't know.
She
That's
looked
my
pissed
guess.
off that Cam got saved and not her.
Yeah, but that's that's just acting. She
But
also
I mean,
looked surprised, like I didn't know.
Well, there's difference between the confessional the day after and then the on-the-spot acting. I mean,
Okay.
when we
I
talked to
don't
Anthony
remember
last
that.
week, and he said they do 2 days of shooting and then 1 day afterwards where they just basically ask every question possible of the contestants. And, it's, no one else sees that footage except for the producers.
Okay.
And so I don't know why she would, genuinely look pissed off and confused. And if she was just
Right,
trying
but
to
they
hide from
also
Cam.
said, I mean, yes and no, because they also said with Sasha and the Snake song last week that she said it in one spot and then they put it into her confessional afterwards. So they can.
Well, no. That was the actual. No, that was a reaction shot. They said that her reaction shot from earlier in the episode they placed later in the episode to make it look like the reveal of the scared.
Right.
But that's different than the confessional.
Yeah, she was.
We're talking-
Speaking
But they still could
directly
have
to
used
the
some
camera.
audio.
But no,
Well, I don't think
she was
they-
speaking directly to the camera. when
Yeah, she was
said
speaking
that.
directly to the camera when she was angry about.
Well, we'll
in
see.
any event.
Yeah. Okay, so scared, we have Geno and Ronnie, which I really thought Ronnie was going to go when we saw that. Ronnie
always looks scared.
He
now.
looks very, very scattered. He looks very scattered. So I thought, and again, because last week when they were, when they had Dana saying that she was ready to go and then she went, they are throwing curveballs of what, we can believe as true to what people are saying and feeling to what's really going on, which I think is brilliant. So we have Geno and Ronnie scared, and then then Giles comes in with this greeting from the killer that no one's gonna die, which we were all kind of like, really? After last week when we were figuring out the math to see if there was gonna be one more death, or if there was gonna be another double murder, or if there was gonna not. But I think it would have been a little bit boring if nobody died.
I instantly knew, because I did watch it ahead of time and I did know who the killer was, or I saw some tweets about it, but I knew that they weren't gonna. I mean, there was no way they were gonna not.
They like to
kill
They
someone.
really like to parse words, especially Giles. He likes to be he likes to say things that are literally true, but the way you would generally perceive them is another way, and that's exactly what he said here. The killer does not want to kill anyone tonight.
Right.
And then so just immediately.
And it was
that
like
evening,
breakfast. It looked like breakfast.
They were,
Did it not look like
no,
brunch?
Ronnie
No,
was
it
drinking
right
a beer.
after. Yeah.
It's
I mean,
noon somewhere.
It's probably well, I know, but
Isn't that the
they were all
standard
drinking, and it
afternoon?
was
5 o'clock.
night-ish.
Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
think
Anyway.
it was soon after, but I feel like what they meant is they tried to make it look like an accident that he died. They didn't want anyone to die, but
Well, isn't it always supposed to kind of be an accident? Like
Draining the blood
golf?
from someone.
Okay, other than that
Yeah.
one,
these people
blowing
off so
somebody
I
up.
But
can-
the
I
other
can
ones
drain
are all
their blood.
accidents. I think he was just saying
I
like,
accidentally shot a.
I think it was
TV
to
after
make everybody feel comfortable,
right.
and then
But
you know,
Melina
just the
always is
drama.
uncomfortable though.
yeah,
Yeah.
I love it though. It's really cute, and I feel like she's like endearing to everybody.
Right. Oh, no,
I'm sorry, we didn't catch that.
Oh, I caught it. Okay.
I think I caught it too. So
It's okay.
So we had a good party. You know, again, we see Giles doing the limbo, which was very, you know, he's got some skills.
Well, I mean, they raised the bar halfway through it, so
He's been
getting down this episode.
I mean, he's been getting down, but
he might be a size 13.
Well, but
because some of the people he's not the killer, guys.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are making
comments
that Giles is the killer. He cannot be the killer.
Yeah.
Even if he has size 13 face.
Right. Yes, we got
really
confirmation
dying.
of that from the creation.
Yes.
From the creator.
No, but we've had people commenting on YouTube thinking he's the killer.
Right.
Yes. It's definitively not the case. I mean, he might be a killer, but not the killer here.
Not the whodunit killer.
Not the whodunit killer. So yeah, it seemed like a fun party, and then all of a sudden, you know, party's over. It did. It seemed like a fun party. Everybody was letting loose. Yeah, everybody was trying to let loose a little bit. And then all of a sudden, Geno's dead. So it is. It's going to be. I'm really curious to see how next week plays out with the teams, to see who's going to align, to see what Ronnie's going to do. He just seems
the tease too. I don't understand what he could be revealing as to his identity. I don't know. Right at the end, the tease of Ronnie saying, "I'm not who you think I am," and then Melina going, "Oh."
I think he's saying he's not like a flopper, but he is.
I figured it probably he wasn't going to be revealing that he was the killer or anything, but I'm curious. They did a good tease this week.
It was a good tease. It'll keep us watching. We love watching. So talking about next week, let's move into some predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz
Ooh,
TV.
we got some new lights happening. Oh yeah, mood lighting.
No.
Okay, so Virginia, you go first. Who do you think? Where are we at?
Okay, so right now I'm starting to think that Melina actually wins the whole thing. I know I said I thought she was the killer, but I don't. I feel like she's gonna win the whole thing, and I think the killer is Lindsay.
Okay.
I think it's gonna come down to the three girls, and blow Cam and Ronnie's socks off, like out of the water.
I don't think it. I don't.
You don't think it's gonna come down to the girls?
No, because, and this might be too technical, but because when we were talking with Anthony last week, he recited what some of the verbiage that Giles says, and it says he or she, blah blah blah. So that makes me think that there's at least one male and one female in the final three.
I agree actually completely with Virginia. I think that Melina wins and that Lindsay is the killer.
Woo woo.
Okay. And who's the third person then?
Oh, the third person?
The loser?
I think Chris.
So you think it's going to be all three girls at the end too?
Yeah, I do.
Wow, no, I don't agree. I think that Ronnie is going to be somewhere in the mix. I think
he's always in the mix.
Right, but the way that they're setting him up to be so scattered, like next week he's going to do something and he's going to become a little bit more solid again. That's how I feel it's going to go. I feel like Melina will definitely be in the last three as well, and Chris will be. So that would be mine. It's Melina, Chris, and Ronnie.
And who wins and who's the killer?
I think Chris is going to be the killer. Melina wins and Ronnie dies. So thank you guys so much for watching. Keep the comments coming. Keep the questions coming. We'll try and get more on air. You can find me, Stef Z, at IAMSTEFZ on Twitter and Instagram. Where can we find you guys?
And you can find me at Virginia Reyna.
And you can find me on the podcast as usual.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.